Hi, and welcome to the show. Rate and review at kevinmd.com/rate. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/podcast. In the show, we have Ketan Kulkarni. He's a physician entrepreneur. His Kevin MD article is titled, "Is Success Really Just About Wealth and Achievements?" Ketan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's like a dream come true meeting a celebrity, and so much a pleasure to be here and connect with the tribe.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And as I said before, I couldn't do it without physicians like yourself writing for my site and coming on the show. So we'll talk about your article in a little bit, but first off, just briefly share your story and journey to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started after 14 years of training, like most of us in the tribe, with a focus that was in retrospect, fairly narrow. As a clinician researcher, went on to become very successful in my academic program, but then faced through burnout. And then I realized that I needed to rediscover my own identity. And that led to serial leadership training and subsequently a coaching certification. And I figured out that my identity was much broader than just being, it's very important to be a physician and do a great job treating our patients and be a researcher. But I was looking for a broader identity and discovered or rediscovered that I was interested in entrepreneurship, interested in writing, interested in content creation, interested in launching startups, and really having a meaningful, purposeful life that has a positive impact on the globe. And that's where I am now, creating and co-creating, learning with all folks like yourself all across the world.
So you mentioned earlier that you are a clinician researcher. You did that for many, many years, very successful in what you did.
Yeah.
Why was that not enough of an identity for you? Why did you want something more than that?
Yeah, because I think, when I was deep into the clinician researcher role, I realized when I was going through burnout that I did that at a cost of many other things. I was maybe ignoring my health, I was ignoring my relationships, I was working 16-hour days. During 14 years of training, I pretty much put my art interests, sports interests, and so many other entrepreneurial interests on the back burner because it is very intensive and needs to be intensive training to become an expert that we expected to be. But in retrospect, again, I think we need to preserve who we are and be authentic and be who we are to become the best vision and version of ourselves. And I think that was that inner calling that told me that, well, this is great. You're contributing as much as you can, but that's part of the whole and not the whole itself. So that was a sudden aha moment that happened over a few years, probably around between 2017 and 2019. And then I kind of decided that, okay, I got to take on the challenge and I've met amazing people since. It's just been phenomenal.
There are a lot of physicians now, they can experience the same feelings that you were feeling back then, right? They've spent like decades in their training and they're defined by being a physician, and they may experience symptoms of burnout. Now, you actually took that step to broaden your identity. Now, how hard was it for you to do that? Because physicians by nature, they spend many, many years being a physician. That's their only identity. How difficult was it for you to break out of that and broaden that?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question. And I think it was difficult. It became possible through seeking help, seeking mentorship, seeking coaching, developing my inner tribe, developing more trusted relationships where I could share, well, this is how I feel. They were going to positively support me. And coaching was a big part of it. I became a certified coach because a couple of coaches I met through one of the leadership programs I did was absolutely phenomenal. They almost ripped apart my brain and put it back together, saying, these are your fallacies. So it's a very powerful tool, right? I mean, athletes use it, professional business people use it. So why not us? I mean, I thought there was so much room to grow in that space that I kind of ended up becoming one myself. And that helped me, I think. And, being with our tribe, really connecting with more people, the more we talk about it and the more we sort of put the tools out there, I think the better it will get. And that was one of the reasons of writing our first book, because I and Francis Yu, who's from New York, we looked at hundreds of resources and we couldn't find one single resource that could easily explain and very coffee table type of read, just put all the concepts out there and explain what does it mean to be authentically successful and fulfilled in life, and we didn't want other people to go through 4 years of reading to figure out an answer that's already in the public domain. It's just that we need to make it accessible, talk about it, and really present the evidence. There's a lot of rah-rah stuff out there. Anybody can do anything. Well, that's all true, but I think we really wanted to we are scientists and physicians, right? And we want everything backed by evidence. So we decided, well, let's take it up. And, we spend the 2 years to do the research and do all the reading from ancient texts to psychology to everything. and then put it all together. So it was a great journey of growth. That's how it happened. I think it was there is the discomfort, but I think anything, if we want to grow, it is going to be somewhat uncomfortable. We cannot do a better performance if we don't accept the growth discomfort, is what I learned.
All right. So let's talk about your Kevin MD articles titled, Is Success Really Just About Wealth and Achievements? Now, how did this article come together?
Yeah, so I think it came together through my own journey and Francis Yu's journey that, when I was in that somewhat narrow focus of clinician researcher, I was driven to publish in the Lancet or the JAMA or the whatever, internationally highly profiled journal, go present all over the world, do a lot of good clinical work and be on the committees and have that identity. But if you really look at it from a critical lens, it was all driven by achievement. And we know now that, based on the data that's published and success literature, it's very clear that achievement, no matter one achievement or a series of achievement, is not equal to success. I mean, there's phenomenal literature that success is a very broad term, and it means something much more than just achievement. It has a lot of importance. It includes a lot of different angles and scopes, and needs to talk about relationships. It needs to talk about your community, your contribution, your meaning, your legacy, your significance. And it's more like a kaleidoscope, right? I mean, it's a big pattern. So, well, if you are a clinician researcher that's very well known globally, but you have multiple failed relationships and you have no support and no family and your finances are not taken care of, that's a problem, right? And the other big piece I had to learn and relearn, and you've been phenomenal at that, is that finance is a very big part of this equation, right? I mean, not everybody needs to become an ultra high net worth individual, but we need to manage our finances. Very few of us will go off the grid and live in the jungles, without needing any money. So if we need money for transaction, we have to understand that that's a means goal, and how is that going to support our end goal? But then it comes to us to take the responsibility to supply those means to have the end goals, whatever they may be. Some people will travel, other people do research, some people, you can do whatever you want, but I think we need to figure out what our money mindset is, and what does money actually mean to us, and how do we build a strong relationship with money. And that's how sort of the article came together. In our book too, we addressed all these concerns. What's the literature on success? What does it truly mean? How do we achieve it? And then talks about what we call outer excellence. So what does success truly mean? How does finance really work? What does money mean to you? What does personal growth and leadership mean? And how do we put it all together to become the CEO of our life? So the article is really to give snapshots of all that literature and present that evidence to our listeners and readers.
So I think what you said really resonated in that success can't just be your academic or your clinical achievements. It's like legs of a stool, right? You have kind of your financial success, and of course you have your success with family and relationships as well. And I think that point certainly should resonate with a lot of physicians out there. Now, sometimes it's easy to measure these standards of success, like when it comes to clinical achievements, how many awards you get, or even when it comes to money, whatever your net worth is. How do you measure success for something that's less obvious, for, say, relationships and family? How does one feel successful when it comes to something without any clear standards?
Yeah, and that was one big thing we realized, that most of our yardsticks for success that the society, peer, internet, media, everybody bombards at us all the time are external parameters of success, only because they are so easy to measure. It's very difficult to dispute a net worth of $10 million. If somebody shows they've got $10 million, they've got it. But the intrinsic parameters of success are far more nuanced, I think, and we really need to understand our own core values, do some of the thought work, learn to manage our thoughts and emotions, really align ourselves with our core mission and values and purpose, and what truly it means to us. So it does require what we now call success blueprinting. We need to truly understand what our own blueprint is all about, because you may be all about reaching as many physicians in the world and spread your message to them, but somebody else, it may be just compassion. They might just want to donate their time for the purpose of making others feel better in whatever the little cost. Somebody else might just want to travel and learn about the global cultures. But unless we truly ask ourselves who we are and what is truly important to us, which I don't think is a 5-minute answer. The people really need to do the work to figure that out, and then define their intrinsic parameters or lens, if you will, to truly align their inner excellence and outer excellence. And that's, I think, the hard part, that, there's no simple yardstick to measure the inner excellence. Only we can decide. Like, how many times do you get asked, well, do you feel successful? You look amazingly successful, but if you didn't feel successful and that was not enough, well, it's not enough. Or if you had very little, but you feel very fulfilled and you're contributing and it's all meaningful, well, that's fantastic, right? I mean, that's amazing. Nobody needs to say, well, that guy's only got a net worth of, just making it up, 500,000. Well, why does it matter? They are very fulfilled and happy with that. So I think that's where the journey began, that, how do we talk about precision medicine all the time, but how do we apply precision medicine concepts to each of us? That's really, really important, I think. And I think there is very good published science for that. It's just that we need to spread the message, we need to talk about it, and really create a framework so that all of us can really apply those things and access them and be their best visions and versions.
Now, through your coaching practice, and I think through your colleagues, you talk to a lot of physicians as well.
Yeah.
Now, in general, what is the typical physician's vision of success? Is it singularly focused like you were when you were a clinical physician? Or is it broad, as we mentioned? In general, how do physicians view success, just from your experience in coaching?
Yeah, and I think, and I have had the opportunity to present all over the world and talk to a lot of people, and now meet physicians from all disciplines and even professionals. Like, I've got a lot of friends in engineering and law and other professions. It seems that a lot of our success definition is very narrow and focused on achievement. We rarely get asked the question, well, how do you feel success? Well, do you actually feel successful? How are your relationships doing? How is your health doing? Are you working, extra long hours all the time? Are you absorbing too much media content that's really wasting the time? I think the culture is very driven by achievement and towards achievement, and often it's intangible, right? I mean, we often get told at international conference, well, that guy is very well published. But what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Saying 1,000 papers or 20 papers or 50 or 100, and what journals? Like, we've set these pedestals, so high that it almost becomes intangible. Like, we don't have any good definitions on what those things mean. And I think a lot of people end up racing and chasing towards those pedestals. It almost becomes like an arrival fallacy. Like, that was one of the things that led to my own journey. Like, when I was talking to big international experts, it came across that, well, they're at 500 papers and they're very well known and they're fantastic. But when I talk to them, and maybe I'm nosy, but I ask them, well, how do you actually feel on a day-to-day basis? They're like, oh my God, it's crazy. Well, I was expecting to hear the answer was, great, I'm looking forward to this in my life. And that came across, but from a far fewer people compared to the other answer, oh, I can't really deal with that ICU. It's just too much. And, I'm just going to stop this in the next 5 years and go to a whatever, place and just relax, Like, we cannot live from vacation to vacation, or, anniversaries to anniversaries, or, a good event to a good event. We have to have a more comprehensive. I think there was a great article in Kevin MD recently where they talked about almost the concept of a working retirement. It has to be a constant remodeling of things. We cannot set a hypothetical deadline and a mirage that it's going to be fantastic after that. It never happens. So I think the gist of what I'm trying to say probably is that we need a comprehensive framework for success and consistently apply it, because it works. I think it's all established and it's up to us to grow up with.
Yeah, I think that singular focus on achievement, like the example that you mentioned, I think that could be also a primary contributor to burnout as well, because there is never going to be enough achievement. For physicians, they're always going to be chasing that next one, right? So when you talk about broadening the definition of success, and you could talk about your own coaching, how difficult is it for physicians to accept that?
I think the change is already happening. I think when it was starting, maybe, when you first started, maybe it was just non-existent. But the more I'm talking to people, the more it seems that it's being brought to limelight, right? I mean, a lot more physicians I know are physician entrepreneurs, physician authors, physician media people, physician whatever you want to put there. They're not just physicians. They're human beings who have the role of an excellent physician and XYZ, however many identities they want. So I think the change is happening already. And, if we consistently apply these principles like we presented in our book, then I think it's going to happen. A lot of people are taking it up to themselves to create their own tribes. There's so many beautiful podcasts and platforms available. We don't even really need to look too much. If you start Googling now for physician podcasts, there's like tons out there. I'm really optimistic that in time to come, we will be able to battle the burnout. We will be able to improve our qualities of life and deliver excellent patient care. I also don't think the answer is that everybody quits practice and starts setting up their own business. That's going to create another big problem. So I think we do need to figure out how to have fulfilling medical practices and do whatever else we want in life. There is going to be the difficult night calls, and we got a new patient and the intubations. We are trained and heavily well trained to do that. But then how do we make that a part of life and acceptable and not just put, wrong things on the pedestal that you have to work 24/7, you have to burn the midnight oil and, it's never enough. Like I've heard all of those things repeated over and over. And they say, well, no, this is what the job demands. No, that's the minimum expectation. But who said it? It's we ourselves who have said it. And there's abundant literature, right? Excessive hard work and long work hours, it's actually deleterious to health and outcome and performance in the long term. But yet we will put up with it. There was a famous researcher in Canada that I was talking to. It's like, I don't want to take on any new project. I'm at a point of really hurting my health permanently. And it really moves me, right? That's just not right. You have these brilliant people at the top of their careers. They need to feel successful, not just appear successful because they have XYZ achievements.
We're talking to Ketan Kulkarni. He is a physician entrepreneur. His Kevin MD article is titled, "Is Success Really Just About Wealth and Achievements?" Tell us some of your take-home messages that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience.
I think the biggest take-home message, I think, is that there is established framework for success. Success is a broad definition. Please reach out, whoever your tribe is. If you feel that you're not fully happy and fully fulfilled and feel like you need or want more, there's so many resources out there, a lot of them for free. Kevin MD is a fantastic resource. Reach out, talk to people like I did. If we can figure it out, you can figure it out. You can help others figure it out. Your version of success is. And I think secondly, we just need to hold our hands together and collectively move forward as a tribe. I think that's a big one, because, we can't do it all alone. We need all the people to connect and communicate and do it together. And I think future is bright. The more I look, 5 years ago, I didn't know anybody who, as a physician, who wrote a book. Now I know thousands. Maybe just my lens has changed because now I have all these people in the network. Now I know hundreds and hundreds who have pretty large scale businesses. So how does that happen? I think we just have to align ourselves with that tribe. So I think if you and I can take a few steps and move forward, I think all of us can do it. That's probably my biggest take-home message.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story time and insight, and thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you so much.